Malelele Pulavinaka Falava, and welcome to another episode of Pacific Empowerment with Akanesi Kaufusi. I can't believe we are at episode number 15. It just goes to show how fast the time is. And, it's been a crazy month this week. There is something going on in the world. There is a spiritual warfare going on. And for those of you who don't know, Charlie Kirk, that is the news that's going all over the world of him murdered during his debate event at one of the university in Utah. And, it really saddens me. And his passing away really hit me deeply. And as many all around the world were affected, Christians, non-Christians were affected by this. I remember when I woke up last week to check my phone in the morning, and the first news I saw was Charlie Kirk passing away, because I've been following his debates. He's been very, alive and well, very active, doing all his work, going to universities, doing all these debates and all these events. And I've been following him on social media, and he's a podcaster. He has a podcast called The Charlie Kirk Show. If you have time, you can go and check it out. And he was a true man of faith. He was a Christian. And I was really shocked when I opened my phone that morning to check and see that people were saying Charlie Kirk passed away. And I was like, what? No, he's not. I just saw his post, his last post. He was very much alive. But then that's when I went through the news and social media and see that he was shot. He was martyred in the university during his work. And it really affected me deeply. We did see the footage, of the horrible incident. It was very tragic, and it really hits me deeply. And because I relate to Charlie so much. He was a true man of faith. He was not afraid to speak the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how much hate he gets from the left or anyone who disagrees with him. He was not afraid to speak the truth, and he was not afraid to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Even though he was a political figure in the Republican Party, but he was preaching more about his faith in Jesus Christ and helping the youth and turn them into Christ. And some of my friends message me, they don't agree with what Charlie Kirk has been doing, and they call him, all these words. He was a racist, and he was a bigot, he was a misogynist, all these names. But if they really go and watch the full video of the debates, then they will understand the context, because the left and the media has been cutting snippets of his video, the ones that are bad, to try and make him look bad and make him look racist and make him look like he hates the left, and he hates trans, homosexual people and all of that. But he loves the people. He just hates the sin because he doesn't believe in the sin. The Bible doesn't condone these sinful behavior. And so many people take the short snippets out of context to make a judgment of him instead of watching the full podcast. So if you have time, please go ahead and watch the Charlie Kirk Show and really understand him and what he was doing. He was truly a man of God. He was a man of faith, and he wasn't afraid to show it. He encouraged me to stand firm in my faith in what I'm fighting, in the truth, and to never be afraid to speak the truth, no matter what the cost. For those of you who don't know Charlie Kirk, I'll just tell you a brief description about himself, his history. He was born in October 14, 1993. When he passed away, he was 31 years old. He engaged in politics early, volunteered in high school for U.S. Senate campaigns, and he attended Harper College but dropped out after a short time to focus full-time on activism. So he didn't go to university. He only attended one semester in Harper College and didn't like it, so he dropped out. So he doesn't have any degree. He doesn't have a full bachelor degree in theology or bachelor degree in political science and all these degrees. He didn't have all of that. He was a self-educated man. He educated himself. his mind is very hard to come by. Someone like Kirk only comes once in a lifetime. And it'll be hard for those in America to fill his shoes. So at age 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA. So Turning Point USA is a non-profit organization who organize and mobilize young conservatives, especially on high school and college campuses, to counter what he viewed as a liberal bias in higher education and culture. So he created the Turning Point USA nonprofit organization to help fight, because the left were preaching all these woke issues, the homosexuality, the transgender, all of these issues. And he saw the effect that it happens on the youth. And he thought, this is a problem that I have to solve, creating this organization so that he can go to universities and debate and talk with these students to try and change their minds and turn their minds back to God and to help them know what is morally wrong from what is morally right. So Charlie thought to go and fight this issue by going and debating young students. His impact was huge. He authored several books called Time for a Turning Point, Campus Battlefield, The MAGA Doctrine, The College Scam, Right-Wing Revolution. These generally argue for conservative ideas in education, critique what he saw as left-leaning domination in universities' cultures. And somehow some of my friends and followers, we don't agree on Charlie Kirk, but like I said, we can agree to disagree without hurting someone physically, without violence. And that is what Charlie Kirk was trying to do. He was trying to debate, to talk to people, because he said if we don't talk to people and we go quiet, the only solutions that we'll have is violence. So that's why he wanted to keep talking, he keep debating, keep, even though it's in disagreement, but it doesn't mean we have to hate each other just because we disagree with our beliefs. We can still learn to love each other without agreeing on certain topics, on certain beliefs. Seeing with what's happening, when he passed away, people were celebrating. You can see the devils in these people. You can see the demons in these people. They were celebrating when he passed away. And it just shows, it's a proof that this is a spiritual warfare. Because when you hear these people, they sound like demons. They really do sound like demons, to be honest. And it's sad. I hope they will open their eyes before it's too late and come to Christ. But what I really admire Charlie Kirk is that he doesn't take things seriously. He has a sense of humor. When people hate him, when people call him names and everything. I even saw a video where he was standing outside a cafe and a woman just came with his cup of water, I think, or coffee. Luckily, it wasn't hot, and just poured, in his head and his body. And after that, he just smiled and then continue on with his work. He didn't say any nasty things or hit the woman or say anything bad. He just smiled and, laughed about it and went on his way. The way he took criticism, people who hate him and make videos about him, he usually laugh it out when people call him out. It's really an inspiration for me and a learning curve for me, especially now that I'm doing my podcast and people are coming at me and calling me names because they don't agree with me, is to not take things seriously. And sometimes we can laugh about it. That is why it's so important to work on yourself and to know who you are and to work on your mental health. So when things like this happen, it doesn't really affect you that much. You are still standing firm in your faith. You are still continuing on with your work, and you never let anything, any words, any influence from outside shook your faith. You stand firm no matter what. And that is what I've learned from Charlie Kirk. It's funny because when I saw the men that were attacking me online, it was funny to me when I read their post about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was speaking the truth. He wasn't afraid. And then when I'm speaking the truth against you and your behavior, then you come and attack me. It's crazy, these men. Today in this episode, we'll be reading out the testimonies from the wives of the Faikava men. So we can go through it and analyze it together in this episode. But there is a video of Charlie Kirk talking about marriage. These Faikava men, if they see Charlie Kirk as an inspiration and a role model, they can learn from how he treated his wife, from his married life. He was a man of God who truly loved his wife and his children. There is a day every week on Friday. He turns off his phone for the whole day so he can spend time with his family, because he's been so busy every week during the week. And then on Friday, he turned off his phone so he doesn't get any distractions. And he spends time with his family. They go out, they go to the restaurant, they go to the beach, go to nature, just to spend time with his family. He was a good and faithful husband. So for these Faikava men, I hope you learned something from Charlie, and not just post something on social media, but to really look at his life and what he was all about. He was a family man. He was a faithful man. He was a godly man. And there is a video snippet here. I'll show you this video of Charlie Kirk about his view on marriage. And then we continue on.
There's a reason why the dress for the man is the same at a wedding and a funeral. Because you're saying goodbye to your previous self. The woman is the icon, the symbol of beauty. Almost always in all white, right? Ascendant. The man is usually in black and white, like he's attending somebody's death, because it is his death. No, but think about it. It's the death of the bachelor mindset. It's the death of promiscuity. It's the death of the wandering eye. It's the death of immoral behavior. It's the death of texting girls casually. It's the death of I get to do what I want to do. It's the death of just going to the bar with friends. It's the death of acting like an infant. It's the death of playing video games till 1 a.m. And it's the birth of a man.
So as you can see, it just fits in with today's topic, because today's topic, we will be talking about the problems that this wife of Faikava men has been having, family issues, marital issues, because of Faikava and Doa. Like I said, I was sharing the Doa testimonies, but then wives of the Faikava men started messaging me and said, what about the voices of the wives of Faikava men? We want our stories heard too. We want our voices heard too, because it's impacting our families. It's impacting our life, And I give them the platform to share their stories. There are so many testimonies of the wives of the Faikava men, and we can dive into it right now, straight away. Faikava has been a really huge problem. And not just Faikava, but adding the Doa as well to the Faikava is a very dangerous combination. And it's been affecting so many families for so many decades. And I'm surprised that, our leaders, our church leaders are still turning a blind eye into this issue when they see there's so many families breaking up, and yet they still allow this Doa tradition to continue, So this is the first testimonies from the wife that I received. When I was sharing the Doa testimonies, and one of the wife messaged me and said, what about the wife's voice that stay at home while their husband spend the night in the Faikava? Last year, my husband used to go Faikava on the weekend, and I agreed to it. Fast forward, my husband's behavior has changed. He comes from work and on a hurry to go Faikava even when I said no. I found out later on, there are more than 3 Doa who comes every day just to be Doa and drink kava with them. That time I feel betrayed, how he wanted so bad to be with them while I met with the kids. I feel lonely most of the time. But I was wondering, why does this young lady want so bad to spend time with this married man rather than go to the nightclub where single man is? Anyway, not their fault that married man wants to go there then spend time with his family. By the way, my husband, he always told me how them Faifeka would whakahua or talanoa whalielia in the Faikava and stuff like. Whakahua means, making jokes, and talanoa whalielia means talking dirty in the Faikava, stuff like. And this is what these men are doing, even church leaders. So that is why it's really hard to make a change in the Tongan community, because the leaders themselves are leading in doing these disgusting behaviors. So, and when she said, these Doa, there are 2 types of Doa. So there are the good Doa, the good women Doa, who doesn't want the man to touch them, who doesn't want the man to sexually harass them. And there are other Doa who likes the attention from the married man in the Faikava, who likes to run away with the married man in the Faikava. And both are bad, because the other women are sexually harassed. The men are forcing them to do something they don't want to do. And then the other women are breaking up marriages and running away with these men. I saw your post about doa, and I want to share my own life experience. I once served as a doa. That was my very first time, and after that, I never wanted to do it again. The young single men stayed quiet, but the married men were talking dirty to the doa and even tried to touch their legs. It was very disgusting and disrespectful, as if their own daughters were sitting there while they spoke in such inappropriate ways. That experience stayed with me. Later, when I got married, my husband and I were happy for about 5 years. Then he started going to kava clubs. He had never gone before, but once he started, he began trusting his friends more than me. One night, he took the house key with him to the Faikava, so I rushed there to get it back. That's when I saw my own husband together with the doa. After that, I didn't say anything to him. I just packed up my 2 children and went back to live with my parents. He didn't even realize our marriage was falling apart. He just carried on as if nothing was wrong. My in-laws knew everything, but they stayed silent. His sister even lived in the same house as the doa, and still they pretended nothing was happening. So I stayed apart with my children. I wasn't hurt because of the doa. I was only hurt because of my husband, the man who was married. He was the one lying and flirting with her. If it weren't for the kava clubs, none of this would have happened. If he had just come home after drinking kava, everything would have been fine. I share this because, yes, the Tanoa are places where people meet and enjoy themselves, but at the same time, they are also places where a lot of bad things happen, breaking up many families. And this is true. It has been breaking up so many families for decades, because of that doa. And it's crazy because it's only us Tongans who have doa, women serving the kava in the kava circle. I do not know why we do that when we know it's sinful. And I don't know why we are continuing to turn a blind eye on this. And it's breaking up so many families. But as you can see here, the family as well, the in-laws was also supportive. And that's crazy because that is a huge thing in the culture. Sometimes even the families is encouraging their son to leave their wife, is encouraging their son to find someone else, even though the son is already married. And that is a behavior that needs to stop. Like the man didn't even see the marriage was falling apart. He was so blinded by drinking kava and, going out with the doa that he didn't even care about his wife and his children. I mean, that's very heartbreaking for me, you know? And this is another testimony from a wife of a Faikava man. Hi, Nessie. This was my situation when we moved here to New Zealand with my husband. Going kava was his first priority, but not me and our kids while I was pregnant. He being flirting with Doa for 3 years. Then I gave up my life living together with him. I love watching your videos. It reminds me of my husband last year. That was really sad for me as a full-time mom. But thanks for sharing with the world to know the truth. Ofa tu dia malo. He treated me like an animal. Then he had to go with the doa and treat her nice. But it's good my family got my back. If it's not for them, I would have go suicide. Because some nights I've been waiting for him till morning. He never come home. Then I run around the kava place look for him. They said he leave early from kava. It saddens my heart thinking about that word Faikava, Tonga, and Doa, because it leaves my life miserable. And as you can see here, the Faikava men are treating Doa better than their own wife, who they vow to marry for better or for worse, But yeah, it's really saddens, to see how the Tongan man treats their wife. I didn't know how bad it is until I received the testimonies from these women. I have another testimony here from an ex-wife of a Faikava man, so this means they're no longer together. So she messaged me in Tongan and I translated it. Good morning, Nessie. I just want to share something important about the topic you raised so we can reflect on it and share experiences. I went through this when I got married and my husband was drinking kava. We were married for 4 years and when I was pregnant, he started drinking even more. He would come home around 4 or 5 in the morning saying he was just drinking kava. Sometimes his friends would message me at 11 saying he was still at the club drinking. There would be Doa there and he would stay until he finished, then leave with one of the Doa. I was shocked. I couldn't even sleep. I asked him, "Why do you come home at 5 a.m.?" His answer was, "That's just how we men are when we go drinking." One night I was asleep, woke up at 12 hungry, and asked him to bring me McDonald's or something to eat. I ended up going to the club myself. I saw him there drunk, going up to a hotel with a Doa. When I followed, I saw them together in the hotel lobby. I asked why he was there and he was shocked to see me. I was 8 months pregnant at the time. Out of anger, I called out his name loudly. He told me to go home, that he'd explain later. That was the moment I realized what was really happening. I went outside furious and left him there. He later came home apologizing, but from that time I knew the truth. I gave birth, but after our first child, I couldn't continue in that kind of marriage. I became a single mother. It's so sad when I think back on this experience. So as you can see here, there are so many marriages break up because of the doa. Why are we still having doa if it's breaking up so many marriages? I mean, if we are a Christian country and if we claim to be a Christian people, our Tongan motto is, God before country. So what is a Christian nation doing with a woman serving kava to a circle of men, breaking up so many marriages and leaving so many kids without fathers? That is another issue. Is when this happens, it's not just the wife that are affected, it's also the children. So another testimony from an ex-wife of a Faikava man. So the right decision I made in my whole 27 years of life was to left my husband after just 1 month of our wedding, because he would made it a habit to left me alone in a room at his mama house while he go Faikava almost every night on weekends. I've been through challenges in life, but I never imagined that asking for the bare minimum from a Phi government would be harder than pursuing a degree or even joining a recruit for life's sake. I would have done anything for that man. I left my family, my home, my island for what I think was love. It hit me hard when you said, "How can you marry someone you don't want to be around with while they go Phi government most night?" I don't understand too. It's been 4 months now from the day I left and I've never been happier. I don't understand it. Like for men, if you know that you can't stop drinking kava, why do you bother getting married? Because what is the point of getting married, wasting so much money and wasting time of people's time coming to your wedding when it will only last 1 month? Like what is the point if you know you cannot leave your old life to start a family? If you know you can't leave your old life, don't bother get married. Just stay single so you can be free to do whatever you want. You can drink kava all day, all night. But just don't waste a woman's life or a woman's time by getting married to her and then leave her to stay home alone most nights while you go and spend time with the kava people, with the men. Sometimes we have to check these men. Why do they spend more time in Faikava than with their wife? Are they gay or something to spend more time with men than with their wife? Maybe we have to double check if these men are afraid to come out of the closet, So instead of, coming out of the closet, they go to Faikava to see other men instead of seeing their wife. I mean, why would you waste your time going to Faikava and seeing, other men? There is only one reason. You are gay. There can only be two reasons. The first one, you are either going to see the doa or you are either going to see your other gay friend there in the Faikava. That could be the possible reason because there is no one straight that can stay in Faikava most night and not spend time with a woman, with their wife. There is only one reason. He's gay. Oh my gosh. Maybe we should start a, gay circle just to differentiate who the straight men are and who the gay men are. Because, you never know. You might be marrying a gay Faikava man. That's why he spends so much time in Faikava. Maybe we need to revisit not only the Toa issue, but also revisit these Faikava men, whether they are gay or straight. Anyways, this is a long testimony from a wife of a Faikava man. It really shows the issue. It really describes how Faikava is affecting the marriage. My husband and I have been married for 16 years. He very rarely went Faikava at the start of our marriage. I would say maybe less than 10 times a year in the last 3 years. He has regularly been attending a kava club at least once and sometimes twice a week, generally on Friday and Saturday evenings into the early morning. We are active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and our beliefs are against kava. Generally, any substance that alters our ability to think and act with a clear state of mind, to make clear and conscious choices or decisions, and for obvious reasons, we have this as a guidelines. The symptoms of kava that I have noticed with my husband are sleepy, drowsy, slurred speech, lack of concentration, delayed reaction, tired, low energy, dehydration, vomiting, to name a few. Kava has always and will always be an issue for me. It has been one of the biggest challenges within my marriage. Not because of doa, but because it takes my husband away from what should matter most, family. Even when he drinks at home, it takes him away from the family. He's here in body, but not in spirit, if that makes sense. The effects of one kava session last for at least 2 to 3 days in my home with the above symptoms mentioned. He will be so tired that he has taken most Mondays off work to catch up on sleep and sober up again from the weekend's kava sessions. Often he will leave the home around 8 p.m. and not return until 4 to 5 a.m. early morning on the Sabbath. I stay awake most nights worrying about where he is and what he's doing until I hear him walk through the door, and then I sleep. He tells me there is no doa at the club he attends. This for me has been one of the main reasons I despise Faikava. His desire for kava, I believe, has turned into an addiction. He cannot stay home with me to watch a movie in bed without having the urge to Faikava. Oftentimes I will fall asleep and wake up to my husband gone. After every special family event, including my birthday, our children's birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, Father, Mother's Day, he has gone to kava. He will do things to try and please me in the moment, like take us for dinner, say things like, next week we're going to do this and going to do that, and then use that as a reason or opportunity to fight kava. This to me is disrespect for my feelings, manipulative, ulterior motives, dishonest and deceptive behavior. My husband has a big responsibility to raise and teach our 5 sons how to be real men, how to work hard and provide not only physical necessities for the family, but also provide emotional well-being and support, how to love, respect, and treat a woman, particularly their mother, their sisters, and their aunties. This behavior in my eyes should not be tolerated, yet here I am 16 years later, still putting up with it because I love him. Many times I have cried, begged my husband to stay for the sake of our family, even to the point where I tell him I will give him sex whenever he wants without argument. It causes a deep resentment and I become very unhappy and sad if he continues to go to kava. But this doesn't seem to bother him because the urge and addiction is stronger. My husband is fully aware of my thoughts and feelings around Faikava. However, that has never been motive enough for him to make changes. He honestly doesn't see the hurt it brings to me when he leaves our home. I pray that God protects him and brings him home safe every day. I beg him to return safely because one of my biggest fears is losing him and raising our children by myself. My husband, this is a another family's husband, is the Kava Club president and he attends Kava more than he should. His priority seems to be the Kava Club. He has never made his wife a priority. I feel sorry for her because her situation is a lot worse than mine. He used to post videos of the doa at every session he did. I would see his flirtatious looks and behavior in these videos, and so would everyone else that was on his social media pages, including his wife. I don't know how she put up with seeing those videos. He has stopped posting them now, but he did for many years. My heart would break for my family members. She arranges holidays and special events without her husband now because he runs the Kava Club and that seems to take priority. She's given up begging and crying and asking, fighting with him to stop going Kava because it falls on deaf ears. It's become her normal now and a way of life for her. This behavior is addictive and toxic, And it takes a real man to acknowledge how it is hurting families and make the necessary changes to make his wife and then his family a priority. My situation is not as extreme as some women that have shared. I can't imagine how I would cope with the infidelity. Thank you for bringing to light an issue that is not often spoke of. Sometimes all we need is to be heard and our feelings acknowledged. Love your work, love your confidence and strength, shedding light on this challenge that many women face every day worldwide. I would like to remain anonymous if you do decide to share this. Just being able to share this with you, a Tongan woman, is liberating to me. I know it won't change my situation, but there is something about uniting with other women who resonate with me on the same issues that brings a sense of power and strength. So, as you can see here, it's really sad. I didn't know much about the kava addiction until the testimonies from the wives started coming in. And it's just like if you are an alcoholic and you prioritize drinking with your friends or going to nightclubs rather than spending time with your families. And I think this is an issue that the Tongan community needs to take serious. There is a kava addiction in the Tongan community and in the Pacific community that needs to be addressed because as you can see here, the husband would rather go drink kava than spend time with his family. For the wife that are going through this, I mean, for many years, they've been living for 16 years. And my only advice is, maybe pray for your husband. Only God can change a man's heart. No matter how much we try to change them, only God can soften a man's heart to change and turn back to God. I think for me personally, I wouldn't tolerate this kind of behavior. I wouldn't want to spend my life, we only have one life, being disappointed by the same man for decades. If they never change, if they prioritize drinking kava than your family, then maybe it's time to rethink your family. If he doesn't want to change, then maybe it's time to leave. Because sometimes they cherish the treasure when it's gone. When it's there, they never appreciate it until it's gone. And then that's when they turn their life around and try to get their families back. I mean, that's my only advice. I'm not advising to leave, but if there's no other solutions, just for me personally, I wouldn't want to stay in a marriage like that. I wouldn't want to do that to myself. And I encourage more women to have self-worth, to know your worth, and to not let any man treat you like this for so many years. Eventually, there comes a point. I know everyone has issues, but eventually there comes a point when someone decides to change their life around instead of living like that for. And also, this is sinful. You are in a kava addiction. This is a sinful behavior that you need to break free from. It's just the same as alcohol addiction, porn addiction, any other addictions is the same thing. So I'm urging the community leaders, the Tongan church leaders, to look into this and recognize kava addiction as a real thing because it's affecting so many families for so many years. So is it a mental health problem? Because it's clear it's an addiction problem, but why? Because there's something deeper than that. Why do they always want to go kava? Is there something they want to hide? Is there an emotion or feelings or trauma that they want to bury deep inside for them to go drink kava just to forget about it? Maybe they need to see a therapist or a counselor to talk about these issues. Here is another testimony from another ex-wife of a Faikava man. Hi, I am the ex-wife of a man who lived for Faikava. I met my ex through a relative who had set me up to meet him in hopes of making a connection. I was asked to doa. Mind you, I had never doa in my life and barely even heard of it. We were never around this part of the culture or tradition like this. I didn't want to disappoint my aunt as it seemed so important, so I let her dress me up and take me, unsure of what to expect. I was instructed on the way there how to sit and behave. We got there and I did just that. I was not comfortable being surrounded by so many men, some married and very few single. The way that those men talked and the things that they talked about, I remember feeling so uncomfortable and getting up and walking over to my aunt to tell her. Apparently, she said, I need to have thick skin to deal with the men, and they are just joking. I did not go along as I was engaged and I got married. As I got married and then hardly ever saw him. I had heard stories about his behavior at the Faikava and the things he would say just made me sick. For the life of him, he just could never give up Faikava. Not to save our marriage or family. Hence, a century later, after a lot of infidelity, abuse, neglect, and abandonment, I finally left. He continued on with his behavior, but I was free. He wasn't my problem anymore. Vowed I would never marry or accept someone who drinks kava. I don't care if it is a man's social gathering. After my divorce, I was asked to doa. I said no. This man kept asking me, trying to convince me that I would be paid well and that he'd ensure it. Finally, I cussed the man out. I was bothered and feeling harassed by this man and told him that doa is not an occupation and there's no way in hell I'd ever be convinced to do it no matter what the payment was and that I had an honest job. I'm just so disgusted by the desperation of these men. I've had cousins that doa. I'm sick by the men's behavior and sometimes even the doa. I've read some of the stories sent to you by others. I could relate so much. It's sad the experiences women face in what's supposed to be a respectful tradition. It's so diluted down and almost in comparison to going to a bar. Just my opinion, so sad. I'm just glad that it's a conversation being had so women can tell their stories and know they are not alone. Because I had never felt more lonely in my life than when I was married to him. Now that I'm divorced, I've never felt alone or lonely just being on my own, if that makes sense. Thank you for opening up the can of worms and talking about it with bravery. As you can see here, the situation of this wife is similar to the previous testimonies. The only difference, this wife left the man, and now she feels happier than when she was with him. It's really interesting to see the situations and how these women are dealing with these issues. Some decide to leave and some are staying because of the kids. So they have their reasons, but as you can see, men love kava more than their wife. And again, like I said before, we have to revisit, we have to double check to see if these men haven't come out of the closet to spend more time with other men than the wife themselves. Anyways, it's so interesting because I started receiving these testimonies are from Tongan women, Tongan wives. But then I started receiving testimonies from different nationalities. Samoan ex-wife of a Faikava man and also Palangi wife of a Faikava man. So I'm going to read out the testimony from a Samoan ex-wife of a Faikava man. Hi there. Thank you for sharing stories about the husbands in Faikava. I'm Samoan and 22 years ago I married a Tongan. I was happily married to him until he started leaving our kids and I at home to go Faikava. I actually didn't mind once a week because he worked so hard and said that was his me time. But then it changed from once a week, real quick, to 3 times a week. I knew and felt it wasn't right. Long story short, I found out he had an affair with the doa. Mind you, my ex and I were 10 years apart. This doa was another 10 years younger. I finalized my divorce last year after asking him many times to file the papers and pay for it. But because he was taking his bloody time thinking I might change my mind and want him back, I filed one-side divorce forms and it was finalized last year. To this day, he manages 4 cover groups and still with the doa he had an affair with, and they have 1 daughter together. He went from looking great for his age to looking like his young daughter's grandfather. Thank you. Look forward to reading other experience because I thought I was the only one who was weak to stay in the marriage because I was told that's what Tongan men do. But raised in our gospel, we don't allow it. And obviously he doesn't care and won't listen to anyone else. Biggest fepoto. So now that my kids are adults, they now understand the reason why I had to leave their father. Fepoto means, they think they know everything. They never want to listen or take in any advice. And so many Faikava men are like that. As you can see, their reaction towards my videos is because they think they know everything. They are the biggest fepoto, many of these Faikava men. But as you can see, for the non-Tongan women and the non-Tongan people, drinking kava and sleeping all day and, not spending time with the family is not a Tongan culture. It is not part of our tradition. It's not part of the culture. It's just these men using kava, using culture as an excuse for their bad behavior. But it's not a culture to spend so much time and have me time in Faikava and leave the families. That is not Tongan culture. But I will read to you a testimony from a Palangi wife. My husband drinks all night, Friday and Saturday, then sleeps all weekend. I can count on my hand the amount of times he's attended our kids' rugby games. They've been playing for over 6 years, so he missed a lot. Didn't bother seeing our daughter's semifinals last year or another daughter grand final. My 17-year-old daughter cried a few weeks ago saying she sees her friends' dads and why isn't her dad like them? My 15-year-old son questions if his dad likes him because he rarely spends time with him. Another daughter said to me the other day, Dad hasn't spoken to me in 2 weeks. He's home every day and can still go days, weeks without talking to our kids. I know there's a language barrier, but he chose not to teach our kids Tongan. He still needs to make an effort. I gave up years ago telling him he needs to put more effort into our kids. I wouldn't be surprised if when they move out on their own that they don't speak to him. It's going to be a real shock to him because, like it is in Tonga, I think he's expecting them to take care of him, but I think he's going to get the same effort from them that he put in during them growing up. The bare minimum. He thinks because he works and provides financially, that's enough. Before anyone says anything, I work to and often pay more to the household than him, even though I earn substantially less. Every now and then he gives his 2 cents on the Tongan way. I've raised our kids in my own while he spent years at kava and being unfaithful. I don't need his 2 cents opinion on parenting, and I'd rather our kids not to turn out like him. So I'm not interested. His lifestyle has caught up to him and he's sick, and I feel bad that I don't know how I will feel when he's gone. I feel bad in saying I think I will feel free. But I'm angry. I deserve better. I deserved a man who was faithful, a man who prioritized me and our kids. Instead, he drank kava, ignored his family, and I'm more than likely going to be a widow in 5 to 10 years with 5 kids. So you can see this is another issue. The health issue of kava, drinking too much kava, it will cause health issue to these men, leading them to die early, leaving widow and kids without a father. So that is something that so many of the Faikava men is not thinking about, the health problems they will go through when drinking too much kava and when they are addicted to kava. So I think I'll just read 2 more testimonies and then you are welcome to check out my page. There are so many testimonies of the wives of fight government. But like I said, when we put up our website, our nonprofit organization website, Pacific Empowerment, we will put up all these testimonies on the website for everyone to read and go through as we fight this issue. Okay, so I have this testimony from an ex-wife of a fight government. I left my husband 8 years ago. I was only 27, married for 6 years, and thought I had built a life with someone I could trust. One night, he told me he was just hanging with the boys drinking kava. Hours passed and I got a message that his brother had passed away in Tonga in a tragic accident. I tried calling him over and over, no reply. Something in me didn't sit right. At 2 a.m., I drove to the kava club. I walked in expecting to see him, but he wasn't there. Instead, I was met with silence, the kind of silence that tells you people know something but won't say. I asked where he was. I even explained why I had shown up at that hour, but the boys brushed me off, trying to cover for him. Then one of the elders of the Gava house stormed in, shouting at the younger ones. Within minutes, the truth came crashing down. My husband had slipped out of Gava not once but every session, sneaking out with Doa during Faikava and into the hati at the back of the garage, Falikalapu. And that night I caught him. I walked in and found him half naked, tangled up with her. 2 days later, he flew to Tonga for the funeral financed by me because he didn't know the concept of hard work and saving. By the time he came back, the house was empty. I had packed everything, moved closer to my family, and decided that I would never be anyone's second choice. He begged, pleaded, promised the world, but my answer was no. Life carried on. He ended up with the doa, but karma has its own timing. Today, he's sitting in Villawood Detention Center in Australia, waiting for deportation after serving time on drug trafficking charges. And she was deported by her sister after being caught with her own brother-in-law. As for me, I'm happy. I've been single for 8 years now, living in Tonga for the last 3 years, working for the Australian government and running my own side hustle. My peace is mine. Here's what I've learned. Most of the time, men will cover up for each other, no matter how much it hurts their wives or partners. The bro goat comes first. But ladies, never ignore your intuition. Check the men you fall in love with because a lot of times what they show you is not what it really is. I really love this because it shows, that the woman knows her self-worth and she's choosing herself over her husband. because he has his own addiction and he can't change and he keep going Faikava. And that's the thing with these men. That's why they attack me on social media, because most of these men are covering for each other. When they cheat on their wives, they are covering for each other. That is why it's so important for men to find a circle with good men, men who have values, who have integrity, who loves their wife, who doesn't cheat on their wives. Because if you spend time with other people who cheat on their wives and who do all these bad things, you will become that. So it's really important to find a good circle. And I really like this story, and I hope women who are listening that are going through the same thing, you have to decide for yourself, is it worth it to stay being disappointed for many years, or would you choose yourself rather than being disappointed by this man if he doesn't want to change? If you give him so many chances to change but he doesn't want to change, is it worth it staying with him, or is it better to go your own separate ways? Because there are other good men out there who doesn't drink kava. Okay, so this is another testimony from a Palangi wife of a Faikava man. I'll just read this and then I will read one more testimony. Then you can check out the rest of the test. There's so many other testimonies that I posted on my page. So this testimony: Hi Akanesi, I'd like to share my story anonymously of being a Palangi wife of a Faikava man. When we met, he was a hardworking man who worked a second job, night shift on weekends. He would work all night and sleep most of the day. When we had children, I found myself alone with the kids on weekends, and he barely seemed to see them. So I made the decision to go back to work so he could quit his second job, thinking we'd be able to do things together as a family on weekends. To my dismay, he began to go Faikava instead. So he was still gone all night and slept most of the day on weekends. I was very naive. I thought they were getting together and discussing the Bible and fellowship. That's what he led me to believe anyway. Over time, it became 3 to 4 nights per week, and he began giving the doa a lift home. Of course, he ended up sleeping with the doa. He blamed her for seducing him and took zero accountability for his own actions. It wasn't until after I left him that I began to learn what really goes on in the kava club. He runs his own club now, and married kava men use his place to cheat on their wives, and they all cover for each other. He's still malanga in church on Sunday though. Now my sons follow his footsteps and go to Faikava too. Reading all the stories on your page helped me see I'm not alone, and this issue is widespread and runs deep. I pray that God works in the hearts of these men and turn them back to Him. I see a pattern here where most of these men manages cover club. They run cover clubs, and it allows them to cheat on their wives with the doa. And to see that they are still preaching in church, I mean, these men have no fear of God. Because the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you fear God, you would like to follow His teaching, you would obey His teaching, you would love your wife as Christ loves the church. But these men, they go and preach in church, but still living a sinful life. I feel sorry for you on Judgment Day, because playing with fire, if you want to do this kind of behavior, then stop going to church, stop preaching. But if you are confident to go and preach the word of God while living sinfully and cheating on your wives and living in adultery, I do feel sorry for these men. That's why I'm really want changes, because I'm not trying to attack you. I'm only trying to help you, because if you do not change, I feel so sorry for you in the Judgment Day, because there is no fear of God in these men. That is why they are able to treat these women badly, mistreating the doa, mistreating the women, abusing, sexually harassing them, because there is no fear of God in them. They don't fear God. I mean, I don't know. It's time to repent, Anyways, yes. This is a testimony from a daughter of a Faikava government. Her story is a reminder that children's voices matter. The trauma and lasting impact of a parent's choices don't just affect today, they echo through generations. So this is the testimony I received from a daughter of a Faikava government. Thank you. Growing up, my dad was a kavaholic. I never really had him in my life, to be honest. It was always just my mom. I am the oldest daughter of 6, and let me tell you, it was hard. My mom was going through her struggles of being the wife to a man who was obsessed with kava and also having so many kids to tend to. Because of my dad's actions and obsession, I was told that I had to step up and help my mother parent my younger siblings. I don't have any kind of childhood memories with my dad due to him being gone all the time. My dad cheated on my mom with the doa that was there, and she got pregnant. The doa had her daughter, and to this day, my mother suffers because of his sin. The doa is my mom's family, and yet that did not matter to her. Now, at the point of my life that I am at, I have a sort of relationship with my father, but I feel like now he's trying to make the childhood memories that should have been made when I was a child now. All I have to say is kava is being abused by our Tongan people. And I am not saying all the Doa women are bad people, but there are still those who will take your husband just because they can. And the same goes to the men. I don't like kava and I will never condone it. If you want to spend more time, energy, and money on kava rather than spend it with your family, you are the problem. As you can see from the children's, the impact of kava on their life, and that is why it's really important for us to do something about this, because kava addiction is real. There is no denying it. There is a kava addiction problems in the Tongan and the Pacific community, and we need to do something about it. What is the solution? Do we need to get mental health support for these men? Do we need to build mental health facilities in Tonga or refer these men to therapy? What are the solutions for this? Because these issues are deeper than just going to kava. There is a trauma hidden behind this issue, and that's why they are addicted to kava, to try and bury these deep issues that they need to talk about, they need to seek therapy with. So, but this is the testimonies from the wife of the Faikava man. It's really sad to hear all the testimonies, and I'm calling the church and I'm calling the church leaders, community leaders, to do something about this. If you have an experience, if your organization is working on this, I would love to hear from you. If we can work together, or if we can collaborate with your organization or with your church, or if you have any experience to help fight this issue, because it's really important. As you can see, the sons now are going to Faikava all the time, just like their dad. And if we don't do something, nothing will change. I hope you learned something from this podcast. So for the men, for the Faikava men listening, instead of getting offended, think about how you can better your life for your family and your children instead of getting offended and trying to attack me, because I'm not doing all of this to attack you. I'm trying to help you, and I'm trying to help our community, help these women. I do really feel for them, because my husband doesn't go Faikava, and I'm so lucky and grateful for that. So, and I get to spend my time with my husband every day. And these women, I feel so bad for them. I really feel for them, because I do not want to be in that situation. We only have one life, and we do not want to waste it being in disappointment for many years. It's not worth it. I would rather be happy alone if my husband is addicted to kava than being with him. But for men, if you are listening and you are addicted to kava and you spend more time in kava, please revisit and please rethink your situation and your life. It is time to turn it around and love your wife and your family and your kids. Love God more than you love kava, and fear God. That is the whole thing. Fear God. And for the single women who are listening, you really need to find a man who loves God and fear God more than man. Because when they love God, they will try and please God by loving you as Christ loves the church, by loving you and putting you first over their addictions, and they will be willing to change. Not only because of you, but because of their love for God. So find men who fear God, and not just go to church, but who really fears God. So that is the episode for today. Thank you so much, and we will continue next week, same time, same place. Malo apito vinaka favetai lava, and have a great week.